Welcome back to our show, your show, Let's Talk Stocks. In studio with us today is Mr. Sean Davidson. Of course, he's Investment Associate Research Analyst at GK Capital, one of the leading brokers in Jamaica. He's here to talk to us about the IPO and why we should invest in IPOs generally, or in particular about the IPO that's currently out. Sean, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Nielsen. It's a pleasure being here.
So, you know, our investors have always been crazy about investing in IPOs and so on. One is currently out now.
Yes.
R.A Williams. What do you think about? Who is R.A Williams, first of all?
All right, thank you for that question. So, R.A Williams Distributors is a pharmaceutical distribution company. They started back in March 2012. Majority of their product portfolio is prescription drugs.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know they supply over 700 customers island-wide.
So like we should buy it. Jamaicans always getting sick. But seriously though, what are some of the key metrics that one look for when, you know, analyzing a stock? What should we really be looking for in choosing, should we buy, should we sell?
Right. All right, thank you. Good question. So, one of the key things that you should be looking for is the valuation, right?
Okay.
So, these guys are coming to the market looking to raise $400 million at a valuation of 2 billion Jamaican.
Okay.
So that translates to a PE of around 20.5 times. All right. It's
and
a little.
PE is price earnings.
Right. Price to earnings. Right. So that metric, 20.5 times, is a bit high.
Yes.
It's a bit pricey, but you find that they are a growth company, right? And if you look into it further, the segment that they are part of, the retail section of the junior market, you know, that average is actually a bit higher.
Oh, the PE on that segment
Right,
is also high.
Right. So within that context, and you know the growth rate that they've displayed over the years, you know the bottom line is growing by 47.7%.
Okay.
Over the 5 years, compounded annual growth rate, and then the top line is growing by 31.4%. So these guys are growing fast. So I think that within a year time or two, I'm pretty sure they'll grow into that valuation.
Oh, and just for the viewers, we're talking about bottom line is profits.
Right.
And top line is revenue.
Correct.
And you're saying they're growing both revenue and profits at a fast pace.
Extremely fast pace.
Even though the price earnings multiple is looking high generally, two things are at play there. From if I were to understand what you're saying, two things are at play. Generally, that segment of the market has a high PE. So
correct.
they having high PE is not surprising. And two, their high PE is also justified by the fact that they're able to grow both top line revenue and bottom line in terms of profits at a rapid pace.
Correct. And you find that because they're listing and the purpose of the funds, right? You'll find that they'll be eradicating some of the debt. So that's more money flowing down to the bottom line. And because it's a junior market listing, you know, there are tax incentives there.
Yes.
So you'll find that there's more profit going forward for the investors, which increases the probability for dividends as well.
Sounds exciting. Sean, again, looking at, we're talking about the metrics. Are these metrics that we look at, you know, different when it comes to IPO or when it comes to a stock that's already listed? Should we be looking at the same things, or should we look at the same things but look at them differently?
Good question. So generally they're the same. However, in terms of valuing the stock,
yes,
since it's not listed, right? When you're doing your comparable valuation, which means you know you're you're looking at the market, seeing what are the comparable companies and what's the market likely to price the stock at, right? So that's the only difference, right?
Okay.
Generally, it's the same, but in terms of your valuation, you want to look for comparable companies, and then you benchmark it accordingly.
You did mention PE as a key factor. So what I'd want to ask is of all the metrics that we're looking at for companies or even R.A Williams, which is the most impressive? What strikes you the most about them and why?
All right, so I definitely think that the return on equity, it is something very impressive. I mean, if you look at it, it's 25%, you know, probably the reason why it's so high is because of the financial leverage that they've, taken on over the past. But that shows that they've been able to utilize that debt effectively, as well as their equity stake in the business.
And 25% would put them above regular market average, you think?
Right.
Which is good. All right, you've made a buy recommendation on this stock. Are you saying buy long or short term? Because again, it's a IPO. People tend to want to get in and get out.
Right. So at GK Capital, we never make a buy recommendation based on short-term trading.
Okay.
We look at the stock. We look to see if it, will be operating as a going concern in the long term. Long term, the growth rate is acceptable. They're great. Look at the solvency. So it's a long-term buy.
It's a long-term buy. What's the projection that you're looking at maybe over the next year or so?
Right. Projection in terms of?
Price. Where should we see this going? I mean, yes, the market, it comes in. If it's oversubscribed, people might chase the price up a little bit initially.
Right.
But since we're talking about generally over a longer term, where do we see this one going?
Yeah, so based on the valuation that we did, the average valuation, because we look at multiple things. We value from the price to earnings, multiple perspective. We look at the price to book value perspective. And we look at the discounted cash flow. So when you average out those valuations, the projected stock price is $1.26.
$1.26. So at least some decent returns over the medium term.
Right.
And it's definitely a stock that, as you say, based on the growth in revenue and profits, should be doing very well.
Correct.
Are there other IPOs coming to the market, Sean? I mean, GK is very active. Are you looking at other IPOs? Should the market be excited going into what we're going into now, third quarter? We're into the third quarter, going towards the end of the year. Should we be excited? IPOs are starting again.
Yeah, definitely think it's something to look forward to. I mean, the past 2 years has not been great, but seeing companies like R.A Williams coming to the market and, Omni previously,
yes,
I think that this is something to, continue looking forward to. GK for one is always looking at the next IPO. I believe we listed the most companies back in 2022, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I remember you started the year and you closed the year.
Correct. So we are always partnering with medium-sized enterprises for listing on the junior market.
I just want to diverse a little bit, segue a little bit from the general IPO. We've seen internationally stock markets have been very volatile, although interest rates been high. The markets really performed. In the US markets, the Nasdaq, the Dow Jones really performed last year, in spite of the high interest rates. Is Jamaica ready? Are we likely? The governor is saying we could look for rate cuts this year. Should we be excited?
Yeah, that's something to be excited about, really. But I'm not sure that we're gonna get such a response like overseas, you know. Primarily because rates for us, you know, coming from 0.5% still elevated to 7%. I think that there's gonna be a transmission period, and I think that perhaps we are in this transmission period.
Transition period.
Yeah, because the BOJ has released a statement saying that, you know, they're looking to pivot in terms of monetary policy. So that's something to definitely look out for.
We should definitely be watching the Bank of Jamaica and where they're going with rates. Are the companies, the financial sector is one of the leaders of the market, heavily weighted in the market. They benefit from high interest rates significantly. Bonds and spreads on interest. Should we be watching these closely to get an idea of where we're going?
Yeah, so financial companies broadly, you know, are a reflection of the economy, right? Over the past 2 years or so, you know, they've actually been beaten up by these interest rates, given that, you know, bonds that they hold, as interest rates go up, you know, the bond prices begin to fall, you know. So they've been beaten up, actually. But going forward, if we're looking for lower, you know, interest rates or market-determined interest rates going forward, then we can expect that these companies will begin to do well.
And what would you be saying to investors generally now? Hold cash, look for opportunities, wait for the next IPO?
Well, I mean, as you just mentioned, right? Rates are looking to come down, right? So I think the savvy investor will now begin to pick out, you know, which stock, you know, they should be investing in, right? And, you know, it's all about being proactive. You know, you don't want to wait until, you know, everybody starts, you know, going into the market.
You don't want to follow the crowd.
Yeah, right. Don't follow the crowd. You know, get ahead of them.
As we look to wrap, Sean, you know, is GK putting any on the viewers like to ask us, so what's the next stock to buy? Is GK willing to say which stocks they're seeing as the good ones?
What I'd say is that everybody's financial situation is different. So I'd say to come into GK and come speak to a financial advisor, and we'll advise on the right stock for the viewers to buy.
That fits their portfolio.
Correct.
No one size fits all.
Correct.
Sean, thank you very much for joining us this morning again. Talking about R.A Williams, the new IPO that is out in the market. Of course, GK is recommending it as a buy, a good stock to add to your portfolio. They are saying it has good top line and profit growth, and therefore you should take a look at it. But that's why we always say here on Let's Talk Stocks, we give you information to make better financial decisions. Come back with us. Tomorrow morning at 9, we'll have another wonderful program lined up for you.